The new class to the Boxing Hall of Fame is in. Welcome to this edition of Making the Rounds. I am Jim Basquil. The inductions for the 2015 International Boxing Hall of Fame took place this weekend in Canastota, New York, with Riddick Bowe and Ray Mancini headlining the fighters going in. To discuss, let's bring in ESPN and Grantland boxing writer Eric Raskin. And Eric, you know, I want to first thank you for joining us, but you were there this weekend. What were your overall impressions of the weekend as a whole?
It was just a happy place. That, for lack of a better adjective, everyone had a smile on their face the entire time. That's what Hall of Fame weekend is about. I'd been there to the Hall of Fame a couple times, but never for induction weekend before. And so that's what really struck me, from the fans to the fighters who are being inducted, to the ex-fighters who are already in the Hall of Fame, to some of the fighters who aren't even Hall of Famers but are just there. Everyone's got a smile on their face the whole time. A lot of these guys, some of the older guys who've kind of been forgotten in general, don't get recognized walking down the street every day. Here this weekend at the International Boxing Hall of Fame, they're superstars, they're celebrities again, and for most of them, you can't wipe the smiles off their faces. That's what really stood out to me.
You know, Eric, with baseball and football, with regard to their Hall of Fames, it's always the speeches that kind of catch you in a sense and make you remember it even more so. Out of the speeches, which resonated with you the most?
You know, a few of them resonated in different ways. Obviously, Nigel Collins was my boss, my mentor, and is my friend. So his resonated on a very personal level. Riddick Bowe's, he just has a great sense of humor still. I mean, if we're being honest, we have to acknowledge he doesn't sound great these days, as we all know. You can't make out quite every word he's saying, but the vibe comes through that he's cracking jokes up there and everybody's laughing. That's what stood out in his. Jim Lampley's acceptance or induction speech, rather, as you might expect, was somewhat emotional. We always play the game when we see Jim starting to get a little choked up on TV. Is he going to cry? Is he not going to cry? I think I counted 3 times that he got fully choked up during his speech. But I think the one that probably stood out most to most of the people there was Ray Boom Boom Mancini, and not so much his speech, but his 2 sons in introducing him and inducting him. There weren't a lot of dry eyes in the house by the time that was over.
I can understand that. You know, Eric, Nigel Collins was also, as you mentioned, inducted. You got your start writing for Ring Magazine, where Nigel was in charge. And oh, by the way, Nigel revealed last week that he wasn't the easiest boss to work for. What was it like to see your mentor go into the Hall of Fame?
I would disagree with Nigel on that, first of all. He was a great boss to work for. Yeah, my first job out of college, I was the managing editor of the Ring, and he was my boss as the editor-in-chief. And so it was just a thrill to see him go in. You know, I wouldn't necessarily use the phrase long overdue that he got inducted, but it was at least a little overdue to me. So I was wondering how long it was going to take. His first year on the ballot, he gets voted in. So that was great. And then to just see him up there, soaking it in, you know, having his daughter and his grandson with him to enjoy the whole weekend. That was just an absolute thrill for me. And he even ran the Hall of Fame 5K and got it done in about 30 minutes, which not bad for a 69-year-old guy. So he had a great weekend all around, and it was a thrill for me to be there for it.
Yeah, no question about it, Eric. 43 years in the business, and he gets rewarded with a terrific weekend. Eric Raskin, thanks for the insight. That'll do it for this edition of Making the Rounds, only in the boxing page of ESPN.com. For Eric Raskin, I'm Jim Basquil.